The rain never stopped on the starport city. It fell in silver lines from the sky, washing neon signs and cracked streets, turning the whole place into a cold mirror. People hurried under plastic covers, rushing to their ships, markets, and homes. Nobody paid attention to the small figure standing alone near the docking bay. She was just a girl, thin and fragile, her strange alien skin glowing faintly under the lights. She looked lost, her hair clinging to her face because of the rain. Her small hands held tightly to a chain around her neck. Something hidden in her grip. The human worker named Daniel walked by. Tired from another long shift, he was used to seeing all kinds of beings in the city. Merchants, travelers, even criminals, but this one made him stop. She was staring right at him with wide, shining eyes. "My mother died today," she whispered. Her voice trembled, but it carried across the sound of rain. "Can I spend the day with you, human?" Daniel froze. He didn't know her, didn't even know her species. She was just a child, wet, shaking, and staring at him like he was the only person left in the galaxy. His first thought was confusion. Why him? There were hundreds of people around, yet she chose him. People nearby turned their heads for a second, but quickly looked away. Nobody wanted trouble. Nobody wanted to deal with an orphan alien girl. In this city, weakness was ignored. Sorrow was forgotten, and kindness was often punished. Daniel stepped closer, his boots splashed in the puddles. The girl didn't move back. Instead, her grip on the chain around her neck grew tighter. Her eyes, strange and glowing like liquid silver, searched his face. She wasn't begging for food or money. She was asking for something far heavier, for safety, for warmth, maybe even for family. "You can stay forever," Daniel said. The words surprised even himself. They just came out, quiet but steady. The girl blinked as if she couldn't believe it. The rain poured harder. Daniel took off his old jacket and wrapped it around her shoulders. It hung loosely, far too big, but it gave her warmth. She trembled under it, but her eyes finally softened. "Come on," he said. He didn't know what he was doing. He had no plan, no money, no space in his life for anyone else, yet his legs carried him forward, guiding her away from the docking bay, away from the cold stairs. They walked through the narrow streets, past neon lights and broken doors. The city smelled of oil, smoke, and cheap food. The girl said nothing. She only stayed close, her small steps hurrying to match his. "What's your name?" Daniel asked after a while. She hesitated, then whispered. "Lyra, Lyra," Daniel repeated. The name felt strange on his tongue, but it suited her. "I'm Daniel." She nodded once, silent again. Her hand never left the chain. Daniel noticed the faint glow from it when the neon lights hit just right. Something about it wasn't ordinary. But he said nothing, not yet. When they reached his building, Daniel paused. It wasn't much, just a narrow block with cracked windows and rusty doors. Inside was worse, small, dark, and quiet. But it was dry, and it was his. He pushed open the door, letting her in first. She stepped inside carefully, like she was walking into another world. Her silver eyes moved across the empty room, the broken chair, the tiny bed, the old food packets stacked on the counter. "This is home?" she asked softly. Daniel almost laughed, but the sound stuck in his throat. "Yeah, something like that," he said, closing the door behind them. For the first time, Lyra let go of her chain. She pulled the small locket into the light. It was old metal and marked with strange alien symbols. The glow inside flickered faintly like it was alive. She quickly hid it back under the jacket. But Daniel had already seen it. He didn't ask, not tonight. She looked too tired, too broken. The rain outside still tapped against the window, and the city's noise kept humming in the distance. Daniel gave her a blanket and let her sit on the bed. He sat on the floor beside the broken chair. Watching her silently, she curled up, clutching the blanket, her silver eyes still shining in the dark. Before sleep pulled her down, she whispered again, "Thank you." Daniel, he didn't answer. He only looked at her, a strange warmth building in his chest. Something about this moment felt heavier than anything he had faced before. He didn't know why she chose him or what burden she carried. But one thing was clear. Her story was just beginning, and now so was his, and outside, in the shadows of the city, someone else was watching. The old door creaked as Daniel pushed it wider. Lyra stepped carefully inside, her bare feet silent on the cracked floor. The room smelled faintly of dust and metal. A single lamp flickered weak light from the corner, showing the narrow bed, the broken chair, and a table covered with tools and scraps from Daniel's repair work. For a moment, she just stood there staring. Her silver eyes searched every corner. Her small alien fingers brushed the wall like she was testing if it was real. To her, it was more than an empty room. It was shelter. It was safety. Daniel watched her silently. His chest felt tight. He had never thought about how empty his home looked. He was used to it. He ate alone, slept alone, worked alone, but now, with her here, the silence felt louder. "You can sit," Daniel said softly. Pointing to the bed, she climbed onto it, sitting carefully on the edge. The blanket still wrapped around her shoulders. Too big, too heavy, but she held it like a shield. Her eyes wandered to the small shelf in the corner, where a few things sat. An old cup, a cracked photo frame with the picture of a young boy and his mother, and a broken toy robot Daniel had once tried to fix. Lyra's gaze stopped at the photo. "Is that you?" she asked in a small voice. Daniel walked over, picked up the frame, and stared at it for a long second. "Yeah," he said, his voice low. "That was me. And my mom. What happened to her?" Lyra asked. Daniel hesitated. The words were heavy. He didn't share this with anyone. But her eyes were too honest, too close to his own memories. "She died when I was young," he finally said. "I was left alone." Lyra lowered her head. The silence stretched, then she whispered. "Like me." Daniel's throat tightened. He set the frame back and changed the subject. "Are you hungry?" She nodded, but shyly, as if ashamed. Daniel opened the cupboard. Empty, except for a packet of dry noodles and a single can. He sighed. His stomach was already used to hunger, but now he wasn't alone. He poured water into a pot, boiled the noodles, and placed them in a cracked bowl. Lyra stared at the food, steam rising. Her small hands trembled as she took the bowl. "For me?" she asked. "For you," Daniel said, trying to smile. She ate slowly, as if every bite was too precious. Daniel watched, leaning against the wall. His own hunger gnawed at him, but he didn't care. Something about watching her eat made him feel strange, a mix of pain and warmth. When she finished, she whispered, "Thank you." Her silver eyes looked brighter now, like the sadness in them had softened just a little. Night grew deeper. Rain still tapped against the window. Daniel turned off the lamp, but he couldn't sleep. He sat on the floor, staring at the faint light from the street slipping through the cracks. Behind him, Lyra lay curled on the bed. Her hand clutched the locket again. The faint glow escaped through her fingers. Daniel noticed it but said nothing. He only wondered what was inside. Why was it so important? Then softly he heard her whisper in her sleep, "Don't let them take it." "Mama." Daniel's heart clenched. He didn't understand. But he knew one thing. The locket was tied to danger and maybe to why her mother had died. He leaned back, running a hand over his face. His life had been simple until this moment. Work, food, sleep, repeat. Now everything was shifting. Suddenly, a faint noise came from the window. Daniel stiffened. His instincts screamed. He stood quietly, peeking through the broken blinds. Across the street, in the shadows, a tall figure stood watching his building. The shape was hard to see, but the eyes glowed faintly red in the rain, and then, just as quickly, it disappeared into the alley. Daniel's chest pounded. He shut the blinds and checked the lock on the door. His mind raced. Who was that? Why were they watching? Was it connected to Lyra? He turned. She was still asleep, unaware, clutching the glowing locket like it was her heart. Daniel whispered to himself, "What have I gotten into?" But even with fear pressing on him, he knew one truth. He couldn't send her away, he had promised. "You can stay forever." And those words now tied him to her fate. Outside, the rain kept falling, but the city wasn't sleeping. Somewhere out there, someone was hunting, and Daniel had just placed himself between them and the girl. For the first time in years, his empty room was not empty anymore. And for the first time in years, Daniel realized his life was no longer just his own. The rain had stopped by morning, but the city still dripped with water and smoke. Neon signs flickered weakly as Daniel woke up, his back aching from sleeping on the floor. He turned his head. Lyra was still asleep on the bed. Her small form curled tightly under the blanket. The faint glow from her locket spilled across her fingers, painting her face in silver light. Daniel stared at it for a long moment. That locket wasn't normal. No cheap toy glowed like that, he wanted to ask. But something told him not to push too soon. Instead, he quietly boiled water for instant tea. His mind kept circling back to the shadow he had seen last night. The watcher with glowing red eyes, whoever they were, they had been looking straight at his apartment, straight at Lyra, when Lyra stirred awake. Her silver eyes blinked open slowly, She looked at Daniel first, then at the small table where the steaming cup waited. "For me?" she asked, her voice still weak. Daniel nodded. "It's all I've got," she smiled faintly. Almost like she wasn't used to kindness, she took the cup carefully, warming her hands on it. For a while, silence filled the room. Only the hum of the city outside broke it. Then Daniel leaned forward, his voice low. "Lyra, that locket, it's important, isn't it?" Her hands froze around the cup. Her eyes lifted to him, and for a moment fear flashed in them. "You saw it glowing," she whispered, almost like an accusation. Daniel nodded. "I don't know what it is, but I think people are after it." She looked down at the chain. Her small fingers held it tight. "My mother told me never to show anyone. But you can tell me," Daniel said gently. "I'm not going to hurt you. I promised you could stay." The words seemed to break something inside her. Her lips trembled. Then finally she whispered, "It's not just a locket. It's a key." Daniel frowned. "A key to what?" Lyra hesitated, then slowly lifted the locket. She pressed a small symbol on its side, and suddenly it clicked open. A beam of soft light shot out, forming strange glowing shapes in the air. They floated like stars, shifting and moving. Daniel's eyes widened. He was staring at a hologram map. "What is this?" He breathed. "It's a star map," Lyra whispered. Her eyes reflected the glowing shapes. "But not just any map. It leads to the sanctuary." Daniel blinked. "Sanctuary?" "My people's last safe place," she explained, her voice breaking. "The hunters. They want this. They killed my mother for it. If they find the sanctuary, they will destroy everyone left." Daniel felt a chill crawl down his spine. He remembered the Watcher last night. He remembered the glowing red eyes. "They're already looking," he muttered. Lyra nodded, tears slipping down her cheeks. "Mama told me to run. She said to find someone kind. Someone who wouldn't give me away. I didn't know who. But when I saw you, I knew." Daniel was stunned. "Him? A poor human mechanic with nothing but a broken room and empty pockets? And yet, she had chosen him to guard the last hope of her people." He rubbed his face, trying to think. "If that's true, then we can't stay here. They'll find us." Lyra shook her head, clutching the glowing locket. "I don't want to run anymore." Her small voice carried a heavy weight. Daniel looked at her, and for the first time, he didn't just see a scared child. He saw someone carrying a burden too big for her tiny hands, but he also knew the hunters wouldn't stop. He remembered her whisper in her sleep. "Don't let them take it." A sudden knock rattled the door. Both froze. Daniel's eyes snapped to the handle. His heart pounded. The knock came again, louder, sharper. Whoever it was, they weren't friendly. Daniel motioned for Lyra to stay quiet. He stepped to the side, grabbed a rusty metal pipe he kept as a tool, and waited. The knock turned into a heavy slam. The door shook on its hinges. Lyra gasped, holding the locket close. "It's them," she whispered, her voice trembling. Daniel's grip tightened on the pipe. His mind raced. He wasn't a soldier. He wasn't a fighter, but he had promised. And promises were the only thing he had left. The door shook again, harder this time. Dust fell from the frame. Daniel whispered without looking back, "Stay behind me." "Lyra," her small voice broke the silence. "If they take me, Daniel, destroy the locket, promise me." Daniel turned, his eyes locking with hers. For a moment he saw the fear and the courage in her silver eyes. And he shook his head. "No, Lyra, I promised you could stay forever, and that means I'll fight." The door cracked under another hit. A shadow moved outside, red eyes glowing through the slit. Lyra clutched the locket to her chest. Daniel lifted the pipe, and the room filled with the sound of splintering wood. The hunters had found them. The door exploded inward with a crash. Splinters of wood flew across the room. Daniel shielded Lyra with his arm as heavy boots stepped through the doorway. 3 figures entered, tall and broad. Their armor shimmered black under the flickering light. Their eyes glowed red like burning coals. The hunters, Daniel's heart pounded. He had no gun, no shield, only the rusted pipe in his hands, but he tightened his grip anyway. His body trembled, yet he stood between them and Lyra. "There." One of the hunters growled in a low alien voice, pointing at the glowing locket clutched in Lyra's hand. "Take the child." Daniel swung the pipe, smashing it against the first hunter's arm. The impact made a loud clang, barely denting the armor. The hunter snarled, shoving him back like he was nothing. Daniel crashed against the wall, pain shooting up his side, but Lyra screamed. Her cry cut through the room, giving Daniel strength. He pushed himself up, rage replacing fear. He grabbed a toolbox and hurled it at the second hunter's head. The tools scattered, one wrench hitting the hunter's visor. "Enough to make him stumble! Run!" Daniel shouted. Lyra hesitated. But when Daniel locked eyes with her, she obeyed. Clutching the locket tight and darting toward the back door, the hunters roared and charged after her. Daniel lunged forward, grabbing the third hunter's leg and pulling with all his strength. The alien stumbled, crashing into the table, buying Lyra a few more seconds. "Go, Lyra," Daniel yelled. She burst through the back door into the rain-soaked alley, her small feet splashing in puddles. Her breath sharp and fast, she didn't dare look back. Daniel followed, his lungs burning. The hunters crashed out of the apartment after them, their armored feet slamming the wet ground like thunder. The alley twisted, neon lights flickered above. Steam hissed from broken pipes. Daniel grabbed Lyra's hand, dragging her through the maze of shadows. "This way," he shouted, turning left into a narrow passage. His mind raced. He knew the city better than the hunters, every shortcut, every broken stair, every hiding place. Maybe that was their only advantage. The hunters followed, their voices echoing. "Don't lose them. The key must not escape." Lyra gasped, clutching the locket. "Daniel, they'll catch us." "Not if we keep moving," Daniel said through clenched teeth. Pulling her faster, they reached a metal fence blocking the path. Daniel didn't slow down. He pushed Lyra up, boosting her over, then scrambled after her. The hunters slammed into the fence behind them, shaking it violently. "Faster," Daniel urged. They darted through the marketplace, knocking over crates of glowing fruits. The sellers shouted angrily, but one look at the hunters charging behind silenced them. Everyone scattered, terrified of getting involved. Daniel's breath burned. His legs ached, but he didn't stop. Lyra stumbled once, and he scooped her up without hesitation, carrying her in his arms. Her tiny hands clung to his shirt, her face buried against his chest. "I'm slowing you down," she whispered. Tears in her voice. "Doesn't matter," Daniel said. "I won't leave you." They reached the tram station, a broken old platform where rusted rails glowed faintly. A tram was pulling away, its doors closing. Daniel sprinted, his lungs screaming. He leapt onto the back step just as the doors sealed. Nearly falling, but holding tight, Lyra clung to him. The tram jerked forward, carrying them away. The hunters skidded to a stop on the platform, their red eyes glowing in the dark. One raised a weapon, aiming. Daniel ducked low, shielding Lyra. A plasma bolt shot past, burning a hole in the tram's metal side. Sparks flew. The tram sped faster, disappearing into the night, leaving the hunters behind. Inside, Daniel collapsed onto the floor, his chest heaving. His arms trembled from holding her. His body ached from the fight. But when he looked down at Lyra, she was safe. Her silver eyes shimmered with tears. "You didn't let them take me," she whispered. Almost in disbelief, Daniel managed a weak smile, brushing wet hair from her face. "Told you. You're staying with me." The tram rattled through tunnels, lights flashing across their faces. For a moment, it felt like they had escaped. But deep inside, Daniel knew the truth. This wasn't over. The hunters wouldn't give up. They had seen the locket. They had seen Lyra. And now they knew about him, too. Lyra leaned against him, clutching the glowing locket close. "Mama said the key must reach the sanctuary," she whispered, her voice small but steady. "Now you know too, Daniel. You're part of it." Daniel stared out the window. Rain streaking past, he wasn't sure if he was ready. He was just a poor mechanic, not a hero, not a fighter. But looking down at the fragile girl in his arms, he knew one thing: he couldn't turn back. Somewhere far ahead, the tram's lights cut through the darkness, but behind them in the tunnels, red eyes still glowed, waiting for the next chance. The first chase was only the beginning. The tram rattled into silence as it reached the far edge of the city. Daniel lifted Lyra in his arms and stepped onto the platform. The place was almost deserted, only a few flickering lamps lighting the cracked floor. Rain dripped steadily from holes in the ceiling. Lyra shivered against him, clutching the glowing locket under her jacket. Her silver eyes kept darting around, afraid the hunters would appear again at any second. Daniel tightened his grip. "We're safe for now," he said, though he wasn't sure himself. They moved quickly through back alleys until they reached an abandoned warehouse Daniel had once used for sleeping during hard times. The roof leaked, the walls were rusted, but it was hidden, and that was enough. Inside, Daniel set her down on a stack of old blankets. She looked small and fragile in the wide, empty space, her knees drawn close, her hands still clutching the locket like it was her heartbeat. Daniel crouched in front of her, his voice calm. You need to rest. Lyra, she shook her head. I can't. They'll find us, Daniel sighed, running a hand through his wet hair. They will keep looking, but we'll stay ahead of them. I promised you could stay forever, remember? Her eyes filled with tears. You'll regret it. Everyone does, Daniel frowned. What do you mean? Lyra looked away, her voice breaking. After Mama died, I tried asking others for help. Traders, travelers, even families. They all pushed me away. Some even tried to sell me. Her shoulders shook. They only saw the locket, not me. Daniel's chest tightened. He sat beside her, placing a hand gently on her shoulder. I'm not like them, he said firmly. I don't want your locket. I want you safe. Her silver eyes lifted to his, searching, as if trying to see if his words were true. Silence stretched between them until finally she whispered, You sound like Mama. Daniel smiled faintly, though pain touched his face. Your mother must have been a strong woman. She was, Lyra said, her voice trembling but proud. She carried the key even when they hunted her. She never gave up. She told me the sanctuary is hope for all of us. She said one day someone kind would help me reach it. Daniel leaned back. Exhaling, he wasn't sure if he could live up to that. He was just a poor mechanic with nothing but scars of his own childhood. But now he had her looking at him like he was the answer to her mother's last wish. The sound of footsteps outside broke the moment. Daniel stiffened. He motioned for Lyra to stay quiet. He crept to the broken window and peeked out. A group of shadowy figures moved slowly through the street, their red eyes glowing in the rain. The hunters searching. Daniel cursed under his breath. He turned back. We can't stay here long. Lyra clutched his sleeve. Then leave me here, she whispered. They only want me, not you. Daniel froze. Staring at her, his heart twisted. She was serious. She was ready to sacrifice herself. He knelt in front of her, gripping her small hands. No, Lyra, listen to me. I already lost my mom when I was young. I know what it's like to be left alone, and I will never do that to you. Do you understand?
Never. Her tears fell freely now. She shook her head.
But you'll die if you stay with me. Daniel's voice hardened, steady as iron. Then I'll fight until I can't anymore. That's what family does. For the first time, Lyra threw her arms around him, clinging tightly. Her small voice muffled against his chest. I don't want to lose you too. Daniel held her, staring at the broken ceiling. His promise was now more than words. It was his life. The hunter's footsteps grew closer outside. Shadows passed the broken windows. Daniel gently pulled away, his eyes sharp. Stay here, Lyra, no matter what happens. Stay hidden. She gripped his arm, terrified. Promise you'll come back. Daniel nodded once. I promise. He picked up a metal rod lying in the corner, his only weapon, and crouched near the door. His breath slowed, his heart steady. Outside, the hunters murmured in their strange tongue. Searching, one stepped close, pausing by the warehouse door. Daniel could see the faint glow of red eyes through the crack. The air felt heavy, every sound was too loud. The drip of water, the beating of his heart, Lyra's trembling breath. Daniel tightened his grip on the rod. His mind screamed at him to run. But his promise chained him to this place. He wouldn't abandon her, he couldn't. The door creaked slowly open. A hunter stepped inside. Scanning the dark with glowing eyes, Daniel crouched lower, ready. His muscles tensed, his mind set. This was the moment his promise would be tested not by words, but by action, and as the red light swept closer, Daniel whispered to himself, forever means forever. The warehouse door groaned as it swung wider. A hunter stepped inside, his heavy armor dripping with rainwater. Red eyes glowed in the dark, sweeping the empty space. Behind him, two more hunters waited, their massive forms blocking the faint light from the street. Daniel crouched low behind a stack of crates. His grip tightened on the metal rod. His muscles screamed with tension. Every beat of his heart echoed like a drum in his ears. The hunter moved further in. Scanning, his voice rumbled. The child is here. I smell her. Lyra pressed her hands over her mouth in the corner, hiding beneath torn blankets. Her silver eyes wide with terror. She clutched the locket close, praying Daniel wouldn't be found. Daniel knew he had only seconds. He took a slow breath. His mind raced. He couldn't fight them with strength. But maybe with surprise, he spotted a loose cable hanging from the ceiling. Sparks flickered faintly where it touched a metal beam. A plan formed, desperate but sharp, he whispered to himself. Time to make a stand. As the hunter passed the crates, Daniel leapt out with a roar, swinging the rod. It smashed against the visor, sparks flying. The hunter stumbled back, snarling. His massive arm swung wildly, but Daniel ducked, rolling away. The other 2 hunters stormed inside. Weapons raised, Daniel darted toward the cable, grabbing a rusted wrench from the floor. With all his strength, he threw it at the sparking wire. The wrench hit perfectly, tearing the cable loose. Electricity snapped and whipped like a living snake. The warehouse lit up in blinding flashes. The cable struck one hunter's chest plate, sending a jolt of energy through his armor. He roared, staggering backward, smoke rising. Daniel didn't wait. He grabbed a bucket of old oil and hurled it across the floor. The slick liquid spread fast, mixing with sparks. Fire erupted in bright orange flames, cutting the hunters off from Lyra's hiding place. Daniel, Lyra cried, terrified. I'm here, he shouted back, his eyes locked on hers. Stay down. Don't move. The hunters roared in rage. Stepping through the fire, their armor blackened, their eyes burning hotter. One swung his weapon, a long plasma blade that hissed as it cut through air. Daniel ducked just in time, the blade slicing the crate behind him in half. Splinters rained down. He lunged forward, driving the rod into the hunter's leg joint. The alien bellowed, stumbling. But another hunter slammed into Daniel's side, knocking him hard into the wall. His ribs screamed with pain, his vision blurred. Through the haze, Daniel saw Lyra crawling from her hiding spot, tears streaming down her face. Stop. Don't hurt him, she screamed. Lyra, stay back. Daniel gasped, forcing himself up. Blood dripped from his lip. His legs wobbled, but he stood anyway. The lead hunter turned toward her, his red eyes blazing. The key belongs to us, he growled, reaching out. Daniel's rage exploded. He grabbed a broken pipe from the floor and charged, slamming it into the hunter's back with every ounce of strength. The sound echoed through the warehouse. The hunter roared, spinning to strike him down. But Daniel didn't stop. His body was weak, his strikes clumsy. Yet he fought like a storm. Again and again he swung, not with skill, but with fury. You'll never take her, he shouted between blows. For a moment, the hunters actually stepped back. Surprised at the human's fire, he was no soldier, no warrior. But his defiance burned brighter than their weapons. Lyra's silver eyes widened. She had seen soldiers fight, mercenaries kill, but never had she seen someone fight with such reckless heart. Daniel was breaking, bleeding, yet he stood taller than anyone she had ever known. The hunters regrouped, circling him, their weapons ready. Flames crackled around them, smoke filling the warehouse. Daniel's chest heaved, his vision darkening. But his stance never wavered. One hunter growled, "Why do you fight for her? She is not even your kind." Daniel spat blood and raised the rod again, his voice steady. "Because no one fought for me when I was a child, and I swore if I ever had the chance I'd never let another kid be left alone." His words cut deeper than any blade. For the first time, the hunters hesitated. Then a loud crash shook the far wall. The fire had spread to the roof. Beams falling, the hunters snarled. Realizing the building would collapse, "Fall back!" The leader barked. They backed away through the flames, glaring at Daniel. "This isn't over, human." Their glowing eyes vanished into the smoke. Leaving silence, Daniel dropped the rod. Collapsing to his knees, his body screamed with pain. His breath came in ragged gasps, but when he turned, he saw Lyra running toward him. She threw her arms around him, sobbing. I thought they'd take you." Daniel winced but hugged her back, his hand trembling as it rested on her head. "I told you, Lyra. Forever means forever." The fire roared louder, forcing them out into the rain-soaked street. Daniel staggered, holding her close behind them. The warehouse burned, its flames lighting up the night. But in Daniel's chest, something else burned, stronger than pain, stronger than fear. The stand wasn't just about survival, it was about the promise. And he knew now, no matter what came, he would keep fighting. The warehouse burned behind them, flames climbing into the night sky like a beacon. Rain hissed as it fell, smoke mixing with the neon glow of the city. Daniel stumbled through the wet streets, one arm holding Lyra close, his other pressed against his ribs where bruises throbbed. Every step felt heavier, but he refused to stop. Lyra clung to him, her small arms tight around his neck. Her silver eyes shimmered with tears and firelight. "You fought them. You saved me," she whispered, her voice trembling. Daniel gave a weak smile. "I promised, didn't I?" They reached a quiet corner near the river docks, far from the hunters' usual patrols. There, under a broken awning, Daniel finally set her down. Collapsing against the wall, his breath came sharp, his body screaming for rest. Lyra kneeled beside him, clutching the locket. Her hands glowed faintly in the silver light it cast. She touched his bruised arm gently. "You're hurt." "Because of me." Daniel shook his head, his voice steady though soft. "I've been hurt before, Lyra, but this time, it was worth it." Her lips trembled, her eyes searched his face. "Why? Why do you care so much?" "I'm not even human," Daniel looked at her. Rain dripping from his hair. His words carried no hesitation. "Because no one cared for me when I was your age. I know what it feels like to be alone, to be unwanted. And I swore if I ever met someone like me, I'd never let them face that same pain." The truth sank deep into her heart. Her tears spilled freely now, not from fear, but from something new. "Hope," she whispered. "Mama said, one day someone kind would help me. She said to trust that person. I think she meant you." Daniel leaned his head back against the wall, closing his eyes for a moment. The weight of her words settled over him like armor. He wasn't a soldier, not a hero, but to this child he was everything. The city around them was quiet for now, but he knew it wouldn't last. The hunters would come again, stronger and angrier. The locket's secret was too powerful to leave in a child's hands. Daniel turned to her, his voice steady. "Lyra, listen. I can't promise the road will be easy, but I can promise you one thing. Wherever we go together. You're not alone anymore." Her small hand slipped into his, gripping tightly. "Forever?" Daniel squeezed her hand gently, his lips curving into a tired but true smile. "Forever." They sat like that for a while, the rain washing over them. Two broken souls bound by a promise. The city lights flickered. The river whispered, and for once Lyra felt safe. Later, Daniel found them shelter in an old dockhouse hidden among crates and machinery. It wasn't much, but it was dry. He built a small fire from scraps, the glow casting warmth across their faces. Lyra curled beside him, still holding the locket. Her voice soft. "Do you think we can reach the sanctuary?" Daniel stared at the flickering flame, his body ached, his future uncertain, but his voice was steady. "If it's important to you, then yes, we'll find it." She smiled faintly, her eyes heavy with sleep. She leaned against him, whispering, "You're my family now." The words pierced Daniel's heart deeper than any wound. Family. A word he hadn't heard in years. A word he thought he'd lost forever. As she drifted into sleep, Daniel kept watch, his hand resting on the metal rod at his side, his eyes scanning the shadows beyond the firelight. Somewhere out there, the hunters regrouped, plotting their next move. The battle wasn't over. Not by far, but Daniel felt no fear. For the first time in his life, he had something worth fighting for. Not money, not survival, but a promise. A child, a family. He looked down at Lyra, her breathing soft, her locket glowing faintly in her hands, and he whispered, "You're safe with me. Lyra, no matter what comes, I'll protect you." "That's forever." The firelight flickered. The storm outside rumbled. The future was uncertain. But inside that small dockhouse, a bond had been sealed. The lonely human mechanic and the orphan alien girl were no longer alone. They were family, and together, they would face whatever the galaxy dared to send.